you were mentioning something earlier that we said we get back to. What was that you brought up in an interruption before I described your nature?
Um, it's probably to do with, as you know, I've been aware of what I have been doing,
Hmm.
but over the past probably few months, it's gotten to a stage now where the the amount of work that I'm doing is I just don't know anymore.
Well, what I'm
And
being told is that you
yeah,
feel there's too much backlog, which
okay,
which means that like the assignments and the projects, there's more than uh, you're interested in doing. On the one hand, you are interested, at least you were more interested, but the work backs up, right? It's like
yeah,
there's more work than you have time to be able to do. Um, and that is a theme that plays out probably more regularly and leads to this place where um, you can probably feel like you're not very grounding because um, it's as if commitments are hard to keep more and more, and that's because of the fluid ground we're standing on at this time. You're not the only person going through it, but it's literally it's very simple. It's asking you not to do so much of this sort of commitment. You know that your presence can create a great amount of change, but in fact, you're more helpful by continuing to explore and go further with yourself.
uh,
The population is now ready. This when I say population, I mean the people that will fill in the gaps that you were directly serving in, that made your mind feel good, that you agreed to do things. Um, Others are filling those gaps.
I hope so, man.
Yes,
I hope
others
so.
are coming up. They're learning about it, and um, and it's not that they might have known that you were the one previously doing it or doing something, but it's like you step away and that gap becomes obvious energetically to them, and so they step in. And so there's not like an official handing off of the baton. It's more like the baton is handing itself off.
All right,
Does that make
beautiful.
is that clear?
Yeah,
So at this time, the people that that know the process of what awakening is, which is following what's coming in day to day, and what shows up in miraculous, spontaneous ways, is really what they're supposed to follow. It's almost like leave everything behind, be right now, and tomorrow you'll have more to be. Um, that has actually been a really regular theme in your life. Is this keep up the pace with yourself, and keep stepping forward, keep you know following your own nose in a way. um, this world has a lot of room for people to ground and create steps for other people to follow and move up, and find their own stairway to their inner heaven and
yeah,
themselves. um, but it's almost like, if anything, leave an acknowledgement of your past, and allow the echo of your actions to be enough for those that are sensitive, that are becoming newly sensitive, to pick it up easier than you had as a go the first time you went through it. So um, it's like energetic lessons left behind by your actions. Um, on the one hand, people like to write books and stuff that does
yeah,
this sort of thing, but that's actually more of a confirmation for their own mind, right? That's more of an attachment to the mind's need for concepts like legacies and grounding and whatnot. And the mind does know a lot about grounding, but it also has a limitation in understanding how to fly and how to move at super speeds. Um, you've probably already come across a couple people that have moved very rapidly in a short span of time. Not necessarily beyond what you already understand, but have done like a really quick sort of like catch up, like come up to speed type of thing on a great many things in a short span of time. And you say, wow, well, that's a really good job. Like, wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah,
You've seen them, they've probably interacted with you, or you've seen them in other ways. Um, but that's what's going on. It's almost like you're leaving a wake that creates its own ripples. You know, when you're on a motorboat and it creates like a wake of ripples? Well, there's other ripples on the insides that are created as a result of the water separating behind you and coming back together. It's almost like ripples that are not part of the original wake but are still continuing as a result of the initial um, breaking of the space. Okay.
yeah.
Um, Now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here.
Do whatever needs to come forth, Julian, because as you can
Okay.
probably state, mate, there's parts of me that there's a big question mark around certain things at the moment.
Okay. So what you actually have a mission that's somewhat defined from the way that I can see it. I may not be in the capacity to understand enough, but maybe I'm just going to give you what I have and what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
sort of
that'd be
being
awesome.
showed. Is that there's and this wouldn't worry you, is that you're really good in a shitstorm.
Yeah, man,
And
that's where old mate shines.
but it's as if part of you has been convinced by who knows who that shitstorms are none of your business, none of anyone's business, and that no one should engage that. So it's as if somebody has tempered the heat that you are, tempered that fire that you are.
Okay.
That is, I don't know what the mystery is behind that, but I can say that um, you're ready for moment to moment critical decisions uh, because your inner wisdom is very, very strong in those moments. You're very, very good in a pinch. You're very, very good in an extreme situation. When somebody's really at the precipice of either losing it or winning it, sort of thing within themselves. Um, it's kind of like you're an EMT, really. Um, and for you to sort of pick up like a regular job, just in the local clinic and taking appointments is almost like contrary to what you bring that's so special. Okay.
Yeah,
I want to say you're more of a rescue worker, but not rescuing, more like an incidental, perfect person to call when things are really climactic.
yeah.
Um, like you should have more like a hotline, you know, to call. Um,
That
because in that moment, your personality suits it, and and your ego disappears. You find an extreme level of empathy, so that you get right in. You sort of like fit in without much explanation needed, and the intuition that you have is able to take on very intense themes that many people would feel afraid to tango with, right? Um, which is not your case. You've been taught, for some reason, this is another part of the thing that's shown up recently to sort of simmer your fire. It's as if something is taught or tried to teach you to offer more respect when you work with someone, with regards to the environment and the world and society, and and their place in it, as if what you're sharing, uh, it's as if the mind thinks that the way that you're sharing it, you're asking people to be like you, but that's not the case. That's not what it is. By being direct, intense, blunt, very blunt, you're not asking people to say this is how you solve your life or anything like that, but this is what you do when you get up against the wall. And you're the kind of person to call when somebody's backed up in an alley. But for most people, their lives are not about being backed up in an alley. And so that's just sort of how, the idea is not to mimic the way you did it, but bring things to the surface in the way that people are not seeing what goes on around them, or the things that they are not paying attention to in their feelings, because your empathy puts you in their shoes with a better ability to reflect on what's going on than they're probably used to practicing. And so that immediately has an effect. And you probably already know how that's happened in the past, and how you've aided people in the past, and how you felt a lot of thanks from them. Right.
Yeah, the other one with that too is with those situations is the amount of dream work that I'm doing with them.
Hmm. Well, dream work is like the place where you can go beyond some of the social rules that inhibit our ability to work together here.
Yeah,
And I mean social rules literally as practically the only thing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
this idea that somebody's in a pinch. You say, "Tell you what, buy me a ticket. I'll be over there as quickly as the next plane gets me there. I'm going to hold you tight, and I'm not going to let go of you until you've cried this diseased belief out of you." And people will be like, check please, I'd like to get out of here. This is not the way I thought it would work. But you're like, hey, all right, then just, we'll do it in dream time and you won't feel so bashful about it. you know? But you understand.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So what's I'm getting a little bit closer to what is this part of you that's doing a little bit of the yanking you back towards traditional comforts, even though that's not really what you're about, is traditional comforts. Um, is your mind doesn't understand what kind of world you really come from. You kind of belong in a comic book, where the rules of how things move rapidly and dramatically in a comic book are different than sort of the rules that we take for granted here. Okay,
Yeah,
and because of that, um, the story plays some very intense dramas. But that's how you sort of learn life in a very short span of time. The difference between an actual comic book and real life is that when people read comic books, that's almost like an approach they would prefer to have to life, but life in general does not give them the space to do that. You don't have that. You don't have much of that illusion in place. However, that illusion is continuously trying to tell you you're not in a comic book, or you don't. Things don't operate like a comic book, and you want to say, but they do. I know they do. Um, and and the mind looks around and tries to say, "Come on, who's with me? Who gets this?" And you're kind of like alone in this. You're kind of like the lone superhero or something, and it doesn't respond in a way. You realize I'm really very alone with these skills. Like there's no, I mean, there are like Avengers teams, but when you take the time to get near like an Avengers team, um, you get a little tied up with the differences of each person's approach, and so that alone can develop drama. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's,
Okay,
you know, it's essentially why I just don't bother about
right. It's kind of
doing
like
work
Batman
with
doesn't do
doing
team.
work with other people
Right,
because
Batman
they do
doesn't
a
do
lot of lip
teamwork very
service,
well.
but don't, yeah, they do a lot of lip service, but don't step up to the plate. So I just go do
Yeah.
what I got to do.
Well, um, let me put it another way.
All right, go.
You're more like the kind of person that would start a group than join one that already existed.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay? Because you know your chemistry and you know exactly what chemistry that uh, you would like to work with. And although there are groups that are really effective at what they do and their approach, it's not the pace you'll find yourself desiring. Um, I'm thinking hard to see if I can be familiar with other people that are that that play at your pace. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah,
But
that'd be interesting.
they are there, and I want to say they're most likely in Australia. Funny enough, if they're
Yeah.
not in Australia, they're probably uh, in Eastern Canada.
All right.
If not in Eastern Canada, they're probably on East Coast United States, like like New York and Washington, Philadelphia type.